Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Norm and Katie's Legal Fight Club here on the Contrarian YouTube channel. And today we have special guest Juan Proaño of LULAC, who's going to show to the world why we have our motto on Legal Fight Club. Instead of what happens in Fight Club staying here in Legal Fight Club, we broadcast to the universe far and wide what we're doing. And Juan is leading the fight to make sure that redistricting does not cheat some Americans of their right to vote for a representative of that choice. And I'm proud to help him. Juan Proaño, welcome to Legal Fight Club.
Thank you, Norm. Thank you, Norm. Really appreciate it.
Now, Juan, explain to the viewers what happened with Donald Trump wanting to steal 5 seats in Texas in Congress through drawing new districts and objecting to California, which has drawn new districts in order to balance that out with 5 pro-democracy seats in the Golden State. How did we get here? And then we'll talk about the litigation that you and I are doing to deal with it. But first, let's start with how we got here. What's going on?
Well, Norm, as you know, in Texas, this has been an ongoing fight. LULAC's been around since 1929.
What does LULAC stand for? Tell the people.
Yeah, LULAC is the country's oldest Latino civil rights organization, and we are here to basically fight for, obviously, Latino civil rights, but also to help Latinos better assimilate into American culture. And that includes, standing in from an economic perspective, from a legal perspective. Latinos really are, looking to achieve the American dream. And, the view of Latinos, sadly, has been portrayed as one of just immigrants, but there are a lot of Latinos that are U.S. born. The majority of Latinos that are in the United States are U.S. born or naturalized citizen, and the minority actually are undocumented immigrants today.
And LULAC literally means the League of United Latin American Citizens, and it's the oldest and the largest, the biggest in the land. Now, Juan, LULAC has been fighting in Texas because there's been an ongoing effort to unfairly redistrict, to draw new districts in the state of Texas to target and disadvantage Latino citizens. And you've been at the forefront of litigating that with many other wonderful clients, partners, and others. What has that been about for years now?
Well, it goes back to 2019 when the Texas legislature actually wanted to redraw the maps for the 2020 elections to gain an unfair advantage. We sued them then, and I recently sued them again when they proposed these new maps in 2025 for the 2026 midterm election cycle. There's no question that they want to gain an unfair advantage. They want to disenfranchise not just Latino voters, but minority voters really across the state of Texas. And, we're not going to stand for that. And so we sued them, with other organizations and other folks with standing. And we won a preliminary injunction, last Friday. They have appealed that ruling and now have taken it to the Supreme Court. But we're going to continue to fight that case.
And one of the Supreme Court justices, Samuel Alito, has put a temporary hold on your win while that's considered at the Supreme Court. And the United States Department of Justice is pushing for that redistricting in Texas. In fact, the whole administration, Donald Trump, asked for it. Right, Juan?
He did. I mean, Pam Bondi basically sent a letter shortly after being sworn in, obviously, at the DOJ, effectively saying that, that there was gerrymandering there and that they wanted the DOJ wanted Texas to actually redraw the maps. It was an excuse, to be honest with you. It was an excuse that was, created, if you will, to actually, do new red line districts and to disenfranchise 7 or 8 different congressional districts to move out African-American representatives and to limit the number of representatives that would represent the Latino community.
And that letter from Attorney General Bondi and the Trump administration and Donald Trump's statements, of course, that all factored into the win that Juan and his colleagues had. We'll see what happens in the United States Supreme Court. Personally, I'm dubious that anything good is going to come out of the Roberts Court on this. But Juan, in a shocking act of hypocrisy over in California, led by Governor Newsom, they did an expressly partisan redistricting. They said, we're doing this redistricting on a partisan basis because we're going to counterbalance what's happened in Texas by drawing 5 more Democratic districts here in California. Friends, Legal Fight Club watchers, do you suppose that Donald Trump said, well, to be consistent, I'm supporting the redistricting over in Texas, so we're gonna, Pam Bondi, DOJ, we're gonna do the same thing over in California. We're gonna say it's a partisan redistricting. The Supreme Court allows partisan redistricting. Juan, is that what the Trump administration did in California?
No, not at all.
Tell us what's happening in California, and then we'll turn to how you and we are fighting together thanks to the paid subscribers to the Contrarian. Go ahead, Juan.
In California, it's very different. The voters basically decided that they actually wanted to go through a redistricting, very different from what happened in Texas, where it was a legislature that decided to actually try and implement a racial gerrymander, if you will. Very big approach. One is racial, one is partisan. The partisanship is legal. The racial gerrymandering is not. That's what we argued in court in Texas. And we won based on the presentation of evidence that we were able to hold together.
And now we're in court in California. Fight Clubbers, we're so proud. I'm representing Juan and LULAC with my colleagues in litigating this case. We're making the point, as Juan says, the law allows a partisan gerrymander. This one went to the voters of California on partisan grounds that this was being done to counteract what was going on in the state of Texas. It was successful before the voters in Proposition 50, and you've heard a lot about Prop 50. Now we've intervened, we've said to the court, hey, we want to be a part of this existing litigation where the state of California has been sued. We want to defend this gerrymander, and we want to do so because we can't have this hypocrisy. You need to have a relief for the attempt to steal seats in Texas. Then you need to have a balancing out in California. And we're not going to bring a knife to a gunfight. We're going to bring a bazooka. And that's what we're doing with this legal action. It's one of many cases that we're working on together with Juan and LULAC around the country. So Juan, what is going to happen next in the litigation?
I think we've got a schedule. We've got the hearing schedule. We'll have to go ahead and, follow through with our petition there, working with you and your team, Norm, to basically put together the best case that we can to ensure that the voters who've decided to move forward with this redistricting get what they want, get what they voted for.
Defending the will of the voters, friends. That's what we do across the country. Thanks to your support. We really can't do it without you. As a paid subscriber to The Contrarian, you not only get great content in the court of public opinion, like Norm and Katie's Legal Fight Club here on the Contrarian YouTube channel, and all of our wonderful Contrarian Substack content. You also get Court of Law, go to court. We support wonderful groups like LULAC, League of United Latin American Citizens, fighting for the Constitution, for the rule of law, and for the American idea in courts across the country. Our successful intervention was granted. Our successful intervention is the Trump administration's worst nightmare, because we have an all-star team of experienced voting lawyers who have collectively well over a century of experience in fighting these cases and winning these cases. This isn't the first time that we've stopped Donald Trump's election-related misconduct. Remember, also on behalf of LULAC, they're the lead plaintiff. Donald Trump issued an elections executive order that would have made voting easier for some Americans who he favors, and would have made it harder for the rest of us. Well, he doesn't have that constitutional power. It's not legal. The Constitution gives the power to control voting to the states, a little bit to Congress, not to Donald Trump. We went to court. We got a preliminary injunction, and we're fighting for the same relief here. And in over 225 legal cases and matters from coast to coast around the country. Of course, Juan, we can't do it alone. It takes a village. That's why wonderful clients and partners like LULAC, so many others in our pro-democracy big tent, are fighting to win these cases. Juan, last question. What do you hear from your LULAC members? They're in every state. They're all over the country. What do you hear from them about how they feel about the work we're doing in courts of law from coast to coast?
I get messages, I get emails, I get text messages. I mean, they're really encouraged, not just that we're in this fight, Norm, but that we're actually winning a lot of these cases. There's a deep-seated concern about, what's happening in Texas, in Florida, for example, in regards to voting rights, in regards to our ability to be able to go to the court, go and actually vote on election day, or, mail-in ballots as well, which are also being contested as well. So we're very encouraged by the representation. We're very encouraged by the wins, and we're going to continue to press this issue. Americans, Latino Americans make up a really critical component of the fabric of what it is to be American today. I'm very proud of that. And we appreciate your guidance and counsel in this as well.
Well, we're very proud to fight on behalf of the Black and Brown coalition that's been targeted by so much misconduct from coast to coast. But as you say, Juan, on behalf of all Americans, the Constitution, the rule of law, and the American idea that every voter should be able to go to the polls and make their choices safe, free, and fair. We're not going to tolerate anybody who attempts to challenge that. And Juan and I are going to be back with other wonderful guest stars throughout the next year, irrespective of how you vote, friends. That's none of our business. We never ask that question. This is a battle for the application of the rule of law and for the functioning of American democracy. And by serving as a paid subscriber to The Contrarian, you don't only get to watch Fight Club, you get to climb in the ring with me and Juan and do battle in our over 225 legal cases and matters that we support. So friends, we want to thank you. And in this Thanksgiving week, we are giving thanks for all of you. We appreciate you being here on Norm and Katie's Legal Fight Club. We'll be on a break for the rest of the week for the holiday. We'll be back with you on Monday. Katie will be back from her international travels for another edition of Legal Fight Club. Remember, what's said in Legal Fight Club doesn't stay in Legal Fight Club. It spreads all over the country and the world. Have a happy Thanksgiving, friends.
Thank you, Norm.